I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone. What if synchronizing your breath and heartbeat could unlock emotional balance, spiritual power, and even measurable health benefits? And what if living from the heart wasn't just poetic, but a practical, life changing path backed by science and mysticism alike? SUSANNA and Puran Bair are internationally recognized mystics, authors, and co-founders of iamHeart, a nonprofit school devoted to teaching heart rhythm meditation. Both masters of meditation, they have pioneered heart-centered practices that transform emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being, creating what they call culture of the heart. Together, they've taught thousands across America, Europe, and Asia, co-authored the seminal books Living from the Heart, Energize Your Heart, and Follow Your Heart. They have co-created the Breath and Heart app, bringing meditation and resilience training to people everywhere. With backgrounds spanning psychology, engineering, science, and the universal Sufi tradition, they bridge ancient mysticism with modern science to reveal the extraordinary wisdom and power within the human heart. Welcome, Susanna and Puran. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
It's an honor to be here.
Hello, Jane. It will be great fun to explore all these topics that we share with each other. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I am so thrilled to have you on. We were just chatting earlier before we came on air, and we have so much to delve into today. So let's get started. Your two books, Living from the Heart and Energize Your Heart, reveal the core practice of heart rhythm meditation and a model for developing the heart's potential. Before we dive into the more technical parts of the practice, let's talk about the heart's potential. What does it mean to lead with the heart's potential in your daily life, work, and relationships?
Well, what happens is a person develops a bigger vision of their self, because we normally think of ourselves as sort of mind focused or centered, and centering on the heart is just a completely different way of living. And then, well, it's not just the physical heart. The heart, of course, is a magnetic field, actually, generated by the physical heart. But that field is much, much bigger, fills the room. And when you incorporate that aspect of yourself into your identity, you have a lot more courage, creativity, cooperation.
You know, Jane, working with the heart is in a way a very natural process. It does not need to be learned. The heart is the very first organ that is being created when we are in the womb of the mother. And the sound of the heart is the first sound that we hear, that internal rhythm. So it is, in a way, a very natural process to listen to one's heart. So I spoke yesterday with a client of mine, and she has panic attacks and stuff like this. And so she said, I don't know if I can trust my heart. I said, can you not tell me some one or two experiences where you listened to your heart and it really worked out? Or can you tell me some experiences where you listened to your heart and it didn't work out? So she said, oh, that's an interesting question. And she said, I was already married and we had no money. And I was very unhappy and I listened to my heart. And she said, I started a graduate program. And that was the best thing that I could have ever done. So that's listening to the heart. If she would have listened to her mind, to the logical situation that she was in, she would have never done the grad program. But she did that, and she said it helped her to move forward in her life and gave her a vision of what she could do. She met her spiritual teacher, her guide, and it moved just forward. And that is really a great little example. And since then, she has learned heart rhythm meditation, and with these panic attacks that she currently has, she really tries to help those panic attacks by breathing slow, deeply, and full, and let the heart speak in spite of the anxiety and the panic things. And that's what you can really do when you have a method of accessing the heart. So this is a lot of sort of short that everybody has access to their heart if they want to. But if you have some challenges, then it's good to have some tools to really access the heart. So
Oh,
those are the short forms.
absolutely. Yeah, no, that was,
Mhm.
thank you for that information because, there is that very popular saying, listen to your heart. But
Yes.
a lot of individuals, we don't really understand the depth of what that means. And you've just explained that, Puran said the energy of the heart is greater than that of the mind, which they now know scientifically. And you gave us a wonderful story that just shows once we have the tools to not only listen but to work with the heart, how it can help us through different situations. But thank you so much for that because it's much more than
Mm.
just a quote or a saying. It's actually
Oh, yeah.
a, a very, very powerful tool, if you want to put it that way. But
Mhm.
so you've created then a school, iamHeart. What is the core mission of iamHeart and how is it different from other spiritual schools or meditation programs?
Well, first of all, a spiritual school is actually kind of a rare thing because there are other very well-known teachers, much better known than we are, that offer seminars and programs and so on. But a school holds people. We hold people for 30, 40 years. And there's still further to go because a school has a concept of where is the ultimate goal. It's not just taking another step. It's like think about what is the purpose of life. What is possible as a human being, and that takes several steps. So a school has, first of all, a concept of steps of progress. We talk about 9 steps on the path of life, which everybody's on, but generally not consciously. So we make these steps conscious, and these steps come from our tradition. They're very very old ideas, and then we talk about what kinds of people there are. We have a system of 12 archetypes of the soul and the heart. So we can work with different kinds of people because most teachers specialize. That's the natural thing to do, specialize in a certain kind of person, a devotional person, an academic person, an intellectual person, an active person. These are some of the archetypes, but to offer a school for everyone that wants to come, you need to understand the variety of kinds of people that there are, and their paths are slightly different. You have to consider that.
Yes,
So in the school,
absolutely. Go ahead.
yeah. So in the school, you not only have like this kind of systems of steps of realization and archetypes and, the tools, we call this the tools of how to breathe. And there's a lot of practices there, but there's also, we look out for the health of a person. Those are the basic things. How healthy is the person? How many medications do they take? Because that's all a support system to be there. And then we look at what do their relationships look like? Because a human being cannot live without relationships. And so we help people very often to repair their original relationships with their parents, in particular with the mother. The mother is the greatest outcast in people's relationships life, much more than the father. The father is much more adored and loved than the mother is. We see this always in personal retreats. We do personal retreats in the school where we have retreat guides, and the person who goes on retreat, they actually move in with you. You have to have a room with a special bathroom and kitchen with it, sort of, if you have like a guest house, that would be the ideal thing. And you take care of them. You make their foods and you make sure whatever they go through, you're there for them. And that's when you really learn how they function, how they work, and what their needs are. And their meditations go from 3 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night with breaks, and their practice is there. They don't read books or watch TV or stuff. No, they're practicing. So it's a really intense thing. So it's health, relationships, and then we look at too the success they have in life. What do they call success? What do they call happiness? What do they call the purpose and inner fulfillment? And then, last not least, is the spiritual realization. Where do they come from? Where do they go through? In today's day and age, it's very important to do this because we come into a time, where people look for assisted suicide when they are terminally ill. And so it's very helpful for them to know where do they go to,
What's next?
what's next if they go for that step. So those are we think, very, very important for people, for themselves feeling safe. So this is spiritual safety we look for. So those are deep, deep topics. And most people, what we learn too, sometimes people can be in the school for 3, 4, 5 years, and then they share what they really have been through. That there people hold actually sometimes so much shame and so much fear of judgment. Those are the big fears. Will they accept me, how I am and who I am, if they know what I all have gone through and deep suffering gone through? Do you see what I mean? Just
Yeah.
recently, one of our students that we know quite well, she shared with her mentor. We have in the school something like mentors and retreat guides, teachers, and all that. So she shared with her mentor that she had been in her early years, because she did not know how else to earn money, she was a stripper. And she was very ashamed to share this. She needed years to really share that depth. And I think for her to share that, like that secret, to have that revealed, actually freed up a lot of energy that was sort of locked up in her heart. So
Yeah.
those are the deep things, and it's long-term relationships. So it's not like, I come from the Catholic tradition. It's not like that you tell a priest something and then you say prayers and then you're done, because you're actually looking for real transformation through the deep sharings. So that is what the work is supposed to do.
Yes, I could
That's the
see how that.
school.
Yeah, the school. So now I'm curious, how long is the program? I know you stay in touch. You said that you stay in touch with these students sometimes for many, many decades. But is there like a set program that's like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? I was just curious.
Yeah, well, we have courses, that are short. Just to learn heart rhythm meditation is a skill in its own, and then we use that skill to go further into the exploration of, the vastness and the depth and the eternity and the infinity. So there is a method, and I think this is a key thing in forming a school, is that you have a method. I mean, there are people that have awakened, so to speak, suddenly, like Eckhart Tolle is an example, somebody who didn't didn't have a teacher, didn't use a method. It happened spontaneous to him, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing, like an act of mercy.
Mhm.
But what we do is we got to where we are by working at it through a method, and that means that we can pass that on to other people. We know how the path works, and we can take other people along that path. So there's a step-by-step process. I think that's very helpful for people.
Yeah, so we have an app, where people just can go on for free and learn the practice, and there are lots of levels of practices in there, and there's also tools in there like heart rate variability, or there is a link in there where you can point and it gives you the pulse that you can breathe with if you have difficulties finding the heart. But then also we have online on our website where you can find classes. There are daily classes that you can go to. And you can just go to one session and say, oh, this is not for me, or this is great. I come every day to this class because there are different times and there are different teachers. And when you find like, oh, I'm getting something out of it, we have a 2-year program where you really move through especially the physical and emotional heart health, which is important. Then we have graduate programs. We just finished one. This was like 18 months. We called it the mysticism program. We also, you can learn our trainings, the mentor training or the retreat guide training or the teachers training. We're just starting an 8-week teachers training because the teaching helps people too. Once you start teaching something, then you really know that you know it. As long as you think you know it, right? And it really improves your own meditation skills. See, meditation is not an easy skill. Do you see what I mean? When I started meditation, I just read a book and I thought I can do that. And I could do it. Sitting still is for some people not difficult. But I think one needs to test one's meditation skills. That when you're really in a life crisis, do my meditation skills work? Can they carry me through? What carries me through in life, midlife crisis or at end life crisis, or when I have a health crisis, a relationship crisis? What holds me through it? Those are the
Right.
big questions. I
Yes.
had
Well,
a,
go ahead.
can I tell you one more story, Jane?
Yeah,
When
stories are great.
when we brought out the book Energize Your Heart, we went on book tours, and we did all kinds of different venues all over the country, and 2 in bookstores. So I did that bookstore, and there come like 10, 15 people and a small circle, and you talk to them. And then walks in a Buddhist monk. And I knew he was a Buddhist monk because he was wearing all his robes. I think he did this for me, that I knew that he was a Buddhist monk. And I thought, good Lord, what am I going to teach you? I have big respect of monks and nuns and so on. And so then I said, well, I do what I do, and here you are. And I taught my little steps of heart rhythm meditation, how to listen to the heart, how to count the breath in the rhythm of your heartbeat, and how you have to breathe slow, full, and deep. And then just silently listen to the heart and see, what does your heart tell you? And so the whole meditation was maybe 15 minutes. It was really just a little example. And then the monk comes up front to me and says, Susanna, I really have to thank you for this. I said, so how come? What was so great experience for you? He says, well, I have meditated for 30 years on my heart, but I have never listened to my heart, never looked for the heartbeat. I said, well, how did you listen to your heart when you didn't feel your heartbeat? He said, I always imagined my heart. He said, and I said, so what's the difference? So he said, my imagined heart does not have any pain. I said, there you go. That is the difference. He said, when I listened to my heart, there was deep, deep pain in my heart. I said to him, so would you know what to do with your pain? He said, well, I think so. I said, you actually gave me the key. He said, it's bring the breath to the heart. Give attention to my heart and bring the breath. I really felt that's where the energy is. He got this right in these 15 minutes. I was like, wow, thank you for sharing this with me. I would have never thought that people imagine their heart, but it totally made
Right.
sense to me when he said, right?
Wow. That is so
Mhm.
powerful. Yeah, that
Mhm.
is really wow. That was meant to be. That
Right.
encounter. It was definitely
Mhm.
preordained or however you want to call it because that just opened up so many doorways in the sense that like you said you hadn't imagined that people imagine and they don't and he said that I didn't feel the pain. So powerful. Yes, very. And I know what you mean about practice. I love this quote that say practice is the mother of all skill. So we just
Yes.
I always and my I always say life is a practice. For me, it's always a practice. Always, every day it's a practice. No matter what we're doing or what we're thinking or what we're involved in, it's a practice because we just never know. But thank you for extending and telling us all about those different programs. So it's great that there's a variety for people to test the
Mm.
waters, to see what resonates with them. And then, like you said, try it out and then take another step and another step. So that's a wonderful way to introduce individuals into your programs. So thank you for that information. And now I wanted to ask you about the ancient wisdom and modern psychology, because this is fascinating that you have brought these together and it's happening more and more in these days. How does I Am Heart blend ancient wisdom with modern psychology and spiritual needs? You may have answered some of our questions, but is there anything else you would like to add to that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, for instance, the theory about how people develop, it has been explored among the mystics more than the psychologists or the biologists. I mean, in childhood development, it's pretty well understood, the steps that a child goes through in development. For instance, the child always walks before they talk. It's kind of interesting. There are steps, stages. But what about adult development? What are the stages that adult goes through? And there have been books about it, like the 4 Seasons of a Man's Life, where they talked about. But there's a lot of research on the life cycle. The midlife crisis is always in there, and so on. But it doesn't go far enough. Psychology is developed fully, in the sense of individualization, right? When you finally individuate, that seems like a key milestone in psychology. But we call that step 5 on our list of or our sequence of steps. And one goes further. There's also a stage of the dark night of the soul, which is very, very real, and it comes after success, after you've reached the pinnacle and you've reached this place of great accomplishment. I had a man come to me, and he had reached the top of his career. He was actually the president of the Career Trade Association for his organization. And his company was management consulting, so it was already a very sophisticated kind of organization. He was also the chairman of the ballet of the city. He'd married his ideal lady and owned his own boat, and so he thought, like, okay, this is it. He said, Puran, he said, is this it? Is there anything more? What's next? And I said, John, you're just getting started. This is an important step you've made, but there is so much more. You have to go back to the well, back to that well that you took the inspiration from, that made you into what you are now. You have to go back to that well and find what is left, what is actually what you've always meant to be. This has been a preparation. You've been practicing. What's the real thing? And he became a student, and Susanna taught him as well. And we think this is a very important thing. It was one of the steps. So that was his step 6. You see, the dark night of the soul, and it just all the things you've thought you understood and that you've aimed for, they're either dissolved or they're accomplished. And then one discovers the infinite and the eternal and the perfect. It's a whole nother thing. It's beyond the person. It's not about your personal desires and accomplishments. It's about what a human being can be. And that leads us on a whole other level of work. And we call that step 7. And it's also called enlightenment, classically.
Yeah.
But there's several more steps beyond enlightenment. So it's an important idea. What is the trajectory of human development? It's one thing that we've taken that from ancients. I mean, this is not, we don't make this up. But it feeds into psychology. We understand the importance of psychology. It takes you a certain point, and then you have to keep going.
But the story that we really like to take two as one of our core teachings or a core measurement on where the person is in their development is two taken from the Egyptian mythology. There is this scroll where you see the god Ma'at, which is the god of the underworld, and he holds the scale in his hand, where on the one hand he has a feather on it, light as a feather, and on the other hand they put the heart, the human heart. In Egypt, when a person passes and they get mummified, they take all the organs out of the body except the heart. The heart stays in for this process to be in in the front of God Ma'at, and then also God Tes, it's called. And then they put it on that scale. And if the heart is as light as a feather, that's when you go on to eternal bliss, to eternity. But when the heart is heavier than a feather, the heart is being fed to the crocodile. So
Wow.
that is, yes. I mean, the crocodile is, in it's Greek mythology, is also a god, but you're staying here on earth, so to say. It's fed to the crocodile. So this kind of, the goal in our work is to make the heart light, to remove the heaviness of the heart. A lot of the people's hearts are very heavy, especially in today's day and age. It's unbelievable because the whole of society, the whole of the planet is going through so much change. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of knowledge, a lot of knowing how to apply oneself and keep the heart light, to have hope, to have faith, to have a belief system, to know how is my heart speaking and how do I interact with others in spite of what all is going on. And that wisdom to keep the heart light, I think is a very wonderful guidance
That's
to people.
fascinating story. See, I love this. I'm eternally curious and always open to everything. In fact, I drive my husband crazy because I'm like, why? 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 And he's like, okay with the why. I don't know. But this information, like, you're talking about this ancient holograms on the wall, or holographs, and what they knew, and now what you have come to know and teach. And obviously the two of you are here for a purpose and a reason, and whatever brought you together and your teachings and your learnings, it's meant to be shared and with as many individuals as possible, because it is what we now know. We because we're so western in our thinking as well, we don't believe unless there's the science, but the science is now proving all of this information. But that story about the heart is so powerful, just really. I find it fascinating, just fascinating. And so thank you for sharing that. Go ahead.
Jane, Puran has to tell you the story because, we are very fascinated with the heart and want to have light hearts. So Puran actually did an example years ago at the University of Kassel in Germany, where a friend of ours, he did an experiment with plants, plants that had received fertilizers and plants that were grown without
Organic.
fertilizers, organic, so to say. And he wanted to know if the light emission from organic plants was stronger than of non-organic plants. And so he had access to a photon counter. And so Puran wanted to measure, does my heart emit light that one can measure? Because you're very interested in science. So here's the story.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I have this background in physics, so I like to measure things.
All right.
And our teacher would always say, send light out of your heart, and I thought, well, that's poetry. But I wanted to know, is that actually happening? Here's a photon counter. Oh, great. Well, so my friend was, as Susanna said, he was really researching plants.
Plants.
And his dissertation for his PhD was that, but it was to see how the light emission was different if it's organically grown. And his theory was that that organically grown plants would have more light. When you cut the plant, you'd see light come out. And it turns out it's the opposite, that organically grown plants hold on to their light. You could cut them and they don't bleed light. Whereas plants that are grown with artificial fertilizers, as soon as you cut them, their light bleeds out. You can see it with the instrument. So they lose their light, and you want to have that light in the plant when you eat it. You see, so you really don't want it bleeding its basic nutrient, which is not a chemical, but it's light itself. So I had a chance to meditate in front of this instrument, this photon counter. The thing counts photons. I mean, a photon is the same energy as an electron, so it's tiny, tiny energy. And you can't see a photon, but 1,000 photons a second is visible, just barely visible. It's the threshold of visibility. So I wanted to see if I meditated on my heart, could I send out light that was visible? And I worked at it hard because we have lots of practices about light and about the nervous system and about the energy system and the heart, of course. And I was running through my list of practices, and I get sporadic output, and I wasn't excited about that. So we went home that night, and I was staying with him overnight, and it turns out his son was sick. So he went to take care of his son. I went to bed. I was tired, and I woke up early in the morning. I said, I know how to do it. We went back to the lab. We weren't supposed to go back to the lab that day, and we went back anyway, and we got the thing set up. And I imagined that little boy who I got to know, I imagined him sitting in front of me with his illness, and I wanted to help him. I wanted to heal him. And it was that desire that turned on the light. And now the photon counter was measuring 100,000 photons a second, so it's 2 orders of magnitude beyond visible, because I had an intention. So when I presented this at a scientific conference, I said, you've got to be careful with experiments. If there's no intention, you're not going to get the result. You have to have the intention of, I want to help, I want to heal. And there's somebody here I can imagine in front of me that I can send this light to. And that's what turns it on. So the principle is the receiver turns on the transmitter.
But it's almost like too with the plants. If you don't need to send out the light, you hold on to your light.
That's
because
right.
we need our light, right?
Right.
But if you have somebody that needs the light and you want to give it, you're being generous, you're being compassionate,
You can give
then
it.
you open up your heart and you send light and you make a difference. So I think that's what all proves that. That's how the
Yes.
heart
Oh,
works.
right. Yes, absolutely. And it's so interesting that that experiment led you to the conclusion that you need the intention for in order to share that light. And I hear what you're saying about the plant. That's fascinating about the light, because I earlier interviewed an individual, and she talks about the energy of food, that the food that we consume all has energy or not, depending, like you
Yeah.
said, where it's coming from, how it's grown. And the importance of that's why the organic is so vital today, because everything that is grown is, thankfully we do have a beautiful farmers market here, but in the fall. Yes, we're both in the same territory, so we know summers are unspeakably hot. But it's so important to get that organic, because now even more so when you say this about that, the light, the energy that feeds us, and that's what we need. But oh, thank you for those stories. That there's no better way to share information than through stories. And I just wanted to tell you something as well, going back to what you were saying. We don't often ask ourselves when we're older what what do we do? Where do we go from here? Like you were saying, when we're children, we're brought up, we're taught this, we're taught that. And it's interesting because I interviewed a gentleman, Dr. Carlos Garcia. He is a clinical psychologist, and he was doing these group meetings. And I asked him, they were of our generation. And I asked them, I said, what is the most prevalent question that you get? And I thought it would have been something on mindfulness or, grow, whatever. And he said that the question that he receives through the group is, what do we do now? It was
Yeah.
really interesting. And I shared that because that's what you were saying, is that older, we don't know, like they've all done their careers, they've raised their families, they've got the grandchildren. And they were asking him, a clinical psychologist, I thought they might have asked him about depression or about, anxiety, or no, they were like, well, what do we do now? Where
What's
do we
my
go
purpose
next?
now?
Yeah,
Well,
Mhm.
exactly.
you probably heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who studied dying
She
and
actually died in Scottsdale.
died in
Mm,
Scottsdale. There you go.
Hmm.
And she was famous for her work with dying,
Dying.
and she
yeah.
found that when people are on their deathbed, they're often in a deep state of regret and
Mm,
sorrow for what they didn't do, even if they've done a lot of things. If they haven't done the one thing, and that's what we can help people with, is what is the one thing for you to do that that will allow you to feel fulfilled in your last moments.
right.
And your brain
Exactly.
is not helpful for that question. It gives you a list of things, check boxes
Mm,
to check off. The one thing is
Mhm.
known by the heart.
Right.
And we feel it's something which is stamped into the heart when it's created, that it's been there all along.
mm,
And that one thing, do that. And first you have to figure out what it is. And so the heart's the only way to know.
wow.
And then what tools will you need to become what you need to be to do that? And of course, the purpose pulls you through that. The purpose is not only a guiding star on the horizon, but it has a power that pulls you forward, the pull of the future, we say.
Mm,
And it's stronger than the push of the past.
See,
yes.
this is very interesting. These are great questions for individuals that get the clarity and that find the power to do what they feel inside of their heart. We do often in our seminars, we ask two these questions, you know, it's a group meditation. What do you think individually? What does the world need the most today? And
Mm,
I tell you, people have all incredible answers what the world needs, more love or more peace. And some some of them are very general with those answers, and some are very specific what it needs. And then you say, well, who's supposed to do this? And the thing is always somebody else. And so when one brings the question home, well, what is it that you could do? You see, then the answer becomes very, very different.
different.
And 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 what one needs to teach people, what we try to help them, then that the heart, when you find what you can do and what is yours to do, you actually find the strength and the power within the heart to do that. People can do amazing, amazing things if they get clarity that that is theirs to do.
That's it.
That that is the truth of the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, you see this woman Greta, what's her name? The Danish young girl,
Thornburg.
Thornburg. She went in front
Mm,
of the UN, and she's fighting on the world stage because she thinks that's hers to do. So I think one just needs to figure that out, and the heart finds its ways. One becomes fearless, and that's a
right.
quality of the heart.
But the ideas that the mind has, for those ideas, you only have the power of the mind, which is tiny.
Mm,
For the
yes.
passions of
Oh,
the heart, you have
absolutely.
the power of the heart. See,
Yes.
so
Oh, I
if you let
agree.
that power,
The mind is the static, you know.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
Jane, and people are willing to give their lives when it comes to the purpose of their heart. When they find that, they become fearless and they're willing to give their life. And that is the spirit that comes through and that is in the heart. So when we find that, watch out. That's all we
Yes.
say.
We are
Yeah,
we are more powerful than we ever imagined, and there's no question.
that's right.
No question. There's
That's right.
nothing that's going to stop us. Well, thank you for that. I'm moving on to defining now the rhythm meditation. So, because I'm really curious, you've been asking or telling us a little bit about the heart meditation. So, how does it improve someone's physical and emotional health? And just if you could define the heart rhythm meditation, that would be great.
Yeah, well, the easy description is that you breathe in for 8 heartbeats and breathe out for 8 heartbeats. That means you have to feel your heart, which is a challenge sometimes. Some people can't find their heartbeat. So we say, okay, look for your pulse. It's in your wrist, you know, you can feel it in your wrist. You can feel it here in your neck. You can feel the pulse anywhere because it's the echo of the heart and it's all over the body. So tune into that rhythm, however you find it, in the chest or somewhere else, and then use that rhythm like a clock. That's the real clock for your body. And coordinate your breath to that clock. So breathe in a certain number of heartbeats and the same number of heartbeats out. You could start with a small number, but try to build up to 8 or even more, because the length of the breath is where that's where the power is. A shallow breath has no power. A long breath, you know, has reach.
Right.
So that's the practice, but it requires breath control and attention to the heart. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
when you bring those two rhythms together, the heart rhythm and the breath rhythm, you synchronize those two rhythms together. You've synchronized two enormous oscillators, timekeepers in your body, and it gives you this sense of integration. Like I'm together. I've got it together. You know, I'm synced up, and that's a tremendous sense of confidence and courage that one needs. You know, to accomplish what your heart is asking you to do.
See, and the great advantage of heart rhythm meditation is that usually meditation is difficult to learn because of the struggle with the mind. Most meditation instructions say, have a blank mind, have no thoughts. Well, good luck, we say. When you do heart rhythm meditation, you actually engage the mind. The mind helps you to find the heart. The mind helps you to make your breath slow, full, and deep. The mind does this. And it's the body mind connection. And by working with body and mind, you find the heart. So it's really a miraculous practice of today. Do you see? Because it's embodied, and when you keep connecting with breath and heart, then the magnetic field, the magnetic energy of the heart opens up. And then you work with a field which is very different than with the physical heart. So this is how these levels, these portals of the heart open up. The next portal is then the spiritual heart opens up, and you get access to the purpose, to the light and love energies which come. So it goes step by step. But the physical heart can be healed just through this simple practice of breathing slow, full, and deep, and be in touch with your pulse or your heartbeat. That's what you also use with heart rate variability, which is, I think, most people know about these days. It's the
Right.
great
I
practice.
love that because what you're doing is you're giving the very static mind a focus. And
That's
therefore,
right.
that
That's right.
focus calms it, that focus
That's right.
quiets it. And
That's right.
therein lies the where you say that it's very difficult to silence your mind because it is. And but this
Yeah.
way it gives the mind, I say, something to chew on, and then you're
Exactly.
bringing the breath and the mind together. So that is so a question then, when you do that, do you need to have an intention while you do that, or do you allow an intention to come to? I mean, I was I was just curious.
Yeah, we use intention. It's one of the 6 basic powers
Okay.
that we talk about. There are 6 powers that you always have control of, and intention is one of them. Attention is another,
Okay.
and breathing, the way you breathe, is another. So there are certain things that you can always control. And intention is important because you can do the same thing with 2 different intentions and get 2 different results. So
Mm,
you need the intention to say, why are you sitting down here meditating? You could be doing so many other things. Why are you taking this time to focus on your heart? The heart is going to benefit from it, but what do what's your stake in it? Why are you doing this?
right.
And then later you discover more and more about the benefits of doing it. So your intention grows and it becomes, I'm meditating for my child. I'm meditating for my work. I'm using this time to learn and to develop my intuition and my courage to be a better human being.
Mm,
And
I
other
love
people are
it.
going to notice. We have parents who say their kids notice when they don't meditate, and they say, "Mommy, why aren't you meditating now? Isn't it time?" The,
Yeah,
the
because I could
influence
see their
is so
attitude
great.
would change, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
and then
Well,
Patience. Mhm.
and then the other thing I wanted to say about our meditation is that we are meditating with energy instead of
mm,
consciousness.
Mhm.
See, from physics, we know that consciousness rides on energy. So when you want to change something, you need to change the energy first. The consciousness will follow. And energy is something we can definitely work with. It's very easy to understand it because it's real. It's measurable, and you can work with it with breath. Breath drives energy, and then energy takes care of everything else. So
mm,
it's an energetic practice, and it's a practice that's not based on Buddhism, which is where the consciousness practices are based. It actually comes out of the Christian
Mhm.
Desert Fathers, the mystics of Christianity,
And
mm,
Egyptian.
and Egypt. But
Yeah.
it's not a religious practice. It's just something that was discovered early on,
Mhm.
but it's discovered in the West rather than in the East.
Mhm.
right. I love that what you just said, that you need energy to connect with your consciousness. No one's ever said that.
To change
That
to
is
change the
to
consciousness,
change it,
yeah, you need
right?
energy to change it.
To
You need
change it.
energy to make
Yeah,
change, and then
yeah.
you see the change in consciousness. But the consciousness is the output,
Not the goal.
not the thing that you can work with.
Mhm.
You can
Right,
change energy
right.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's really insightful. Thank you for that. Well, your first book, Living from the Heart, introduces the core practices of HRM, which is heart rhythm meditation. What's
Meditation.
happening in the body, physiologically and energetically, when we practice that? You may have answered some of those questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, it's important. As soon as you think about the heart, you change the circulation pattern in the body, and the heart starts getting more blood, and the vessels open up, and because it has more blood, the voltage to the heart increases, so it beats harder. That's
Mhm.
very helpful. So the magnetic field is then expanded from the increased voltage. You get more magnetism, so the magnetic field grows. The other thing that happens is that because of the deep breath, the vagal nerve is turned on, vagus nerve, and you get vagal tone, which is the gold standard for stress resilience. So you have the ability to handle stress. We don't try to avoid stress; that's impossible. You can't avoid stress, but you can handle stress. You can increase your capacity to handle stress, and that's done through this stimulation of the vagus nerve, which happens from 2 different methods. There's the usual method is called RSA, respiratory sinus arrhythmia. That's the method by which the exhalation reduces the heart rate and blood pressure. But there's another method called baroreflex, which also works if the breath is deep and full. So our method, because of the unusual breath we have, which is a full breath, we have 2 different ways of impacting the vagus nerve. So we have a tremendous effect on vagal tone and HRV. Very important.
Thank you.
which
Was there
helps with the
anything?
trauma management. Yeah.
Yes, I could see that. So important and such fascinating information. So it's different. It's not what you usually hear from individuals. And I love
Yeah,
that these come from all the modalities and information that you're sharing. They come from so many different areas, and I really appreciate the fact that you brought that all together, because let's face it, we have the capacity, the information channels now today, but like you said, many people just focus on one area. But when it comes to the heart and the meditation in the body, someone once said, we are the most magnificent machine. Nobody could ever copy us, because of AI and what's coming in, and everything. And it's true. I mean, you just think, you wake up in the morning, we take it for granted that we can get out of bed and walk to the restroom and brush our teeth, whatever we're doing. It's all unconscious, but there's all these things that are working inside your body to even make you have breath to speak. The somebody explained the mechanism that happens when we speak, the inhalation of the breath and then the exhalation, and the energy that's required to say a word. And
That's right. Mm.
it's absolutely magnificent. So thank you for all of this information. I'm going to move on now to your second book, The Energize Your Heart. It dives into developing the heart's potential. So how can someone begin to recognize the voice of the heart versus the voice of the mind and start tapping into that?
Well, a simple way to recognize the voice of the heart is that the voice, when you hear the voice of the heart, it surprises you. When you hear the voice of the mind, you actually expect that. So that's a very interesting way to decode. And sometimes the voice of the heart really uplifts you. You're like, wow, this is way beyond what I expected. Or it scares you. The heart can scare you in the sense of that it says something where you're like, I'm not sure that I'm up for that. But that's the truth. This is what I need to do. Like I can tell this, Puran and I, we met when we both were older, and we both were actually married, and we met. And it was very scary for me to think that I will be with this man. How will I get through this? The voice of my heart was very clear, and we needed years till we really got together, because it's not very easy to dissolve the relationships that we were in, and it takes a lot of responsibility, and that you have made commitments to. But it was the voice of the heart, and here we are, 40 some years later, and it really worked out right for us. There was, and that's to the heart. The heart work is sometimes hard work, is how to make the others heal and be comfortable in their lives if you go through decisions like that. So that's one of the great example of the voice of the heart. The mind was just saying like, you're crazy, as like totally
too difficult.
immoral, and all those kinds of rules come towards you. But the heart says that's the right thing to do. And so you push it away and you go towards it. So that's the voice of the heart.
The
It
voice of the
sounds like a
mind
love
causes
romance. Sorry,
Mm.
go ahead.
when somebody speaks from the mind, you get an argument. When somebody speaks from the heart, you don't get an argument. You get like, ah, oh, okay, it's truth.
Yeah,
Yeah, the heart
yeah.
knows how to touch the truth.
So this book, the second book that we did, is about the shape of the magnetic field and how this magnetic field that the heart creates, although it's three dimensional, it's everywhere. It's not uniform. It can be wider or more deep or higher, and the shape of the field is actually formed out of the way we've approached life. It's a model for who you are. And we analyzed what kinds of shapes the field can have and what that would mean for the person's life. And you can measure the field. You can measure the shape of the field, and your hand is the most sensitive measurement tool. It's better than anything else. It can feel the edge of the field. So that's what we do in our courses. We feel the size of a person's field in relation. I mean, the field goes on and fills the room, but there's a certain contour to it, and it's very indicative of the person's inner being.
Does it
And the
change?
Valentine, yeah.
You
What?
can change it.
Yeah.
You can change it with breathing practices and attention on your heart and a sense of intention and purpose. It changes.
See, we call them the dimensions of the heart. You know, there's a height dimension, a depth dimension. And some people really have crushed hearts. You know, when life was very difficult, the height is crushed. And you can feel this when you try to feel the energy body around them. And you can often see it in their face, you know, or in their appearance. You can see the energy in that. And some people have a very narrow heart, you know, who try to really squeeze themselves into any situation and try to follow all the rules. Their heart becomes narrow and narrower, and their emotional body just shuts down a lot of the experiences that they could have, right? And then there is too, we speak about the back of the heart. There's also a lot of energy, and most people are not aware of the back of the heart. This is actually where guidance can come from, you know, like
The hand on your back.
or people say you have my back, right? So that is this expression there, that there's actually some kind of energy that we can work with.
Yeah.
And when you explore this experience through meditation, through the breath, you can actually open up that back of the heart, and you can actually choose who is your guidance. And that's very important, the forward dimension, because this is actually how we become fearless, when we have clarity about how to move forward. What is it that needs to be done? And most of the people have a shield there too. You know, there is no forward movement there. They're just stuck where they are, and so they sort of rotate in place, right? So, and then we always say, when all the dimensions, you know, the widths, the heights, the depth, the back and the forward, some people have all of them not opened up. Then we say, go to the inner dimension, develop the inner inside of your heart, and really hang out there and feel who are you at the core of your being, and create the energy inside. And then people go like, whoa, and the dimensions start to open up. It's really miraculous. It's really a great blessing when those kinds of energies open. Yeah.
I can
So see,
imagine.
if you want to change your behavior, you don't focus on the behavior itself. You change the energy, change the shape of your energy field, and behavior will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm curious if you have someone who is a non-believer. Have you ever come across someone like that where
Oh
they
yes,
they need a lot of
everybody starts
help,
out that way.
but they're like,
Well,
okay, I
you know,
think you're
like
crazy.
this experiment where you put your hands like this and you can feel there's some kind of a force
Energy.
between them, and maybe like a rubber ball is invisible between your hands. Well, that's the energy of the heart going through the hands. So even little kids can get this right away. So we don't want people to believe something. We just want them to experience something, and so we're not pushing dogmas. We're saying try this out, see how this works.
But you know, I'm not sure if you want to put this on your video, but the way how we know also too, if people have doubts and fears of what we do and that they don't believe it at all, they want to take a program, the 2-year program, and they say, I really want to take this, but I have no money and they need a big scholarship. And we're like, really? So, okay. So we give them a big scholarship and they go through it. And by the end, they're totally convinced. They take the next program and give a donation on top of it for other people, because what they learned, they want them other people to learn too. So we have
Right.
experienced this with people. All of a sudden, money is not the problem anymore. But in
Right.
the beginning,
Yeah.
it is, because it sounds so, really, this simple thing should bring all these changes and all these possibilities. And
Hmm.
when they give themselves to it, then it really is
Right.
happening for them.
Something
Yeah,
powerful doesn't need to be complicated. It's usually
yeah,
the simple things that are the most powerful because it's right there in front of us, waiting for us. That's what I always say. It's always been within us. It's just waiting for us to say yes.
Yeah,
that's right.
that's good. That's
That's
good.
right.
I like that.
That's on my website. I've said it's just there. It's waiting. It's remembering who we are. That's what it is. Remembering who we are. Right?
It's a wonderful work that you're doing, Jane, that you bring these ideas to people and really help them make it work. It's a
Well,
real gift.
likewise. Oh, well, thank you. Likewise. I mean, it's a gift for me to speak to individuals like you and just share this because like I said, I mean, this is my passion and I'm always interested in learning more and understanding what we're all here for. It's got to be
That's
greater
right.
than all this craziness and the stress and what I call the static. I always remember this one quote. It says, "To the mind that is still, the universe surrenders." And I just love that
That's
quote.
right.
It's a beautiful quote. Well, here's something that I know some people will ask, and they're probably interested in knowing. What would you say to someone who's tried other forms of meditation but felt like they weren't getting it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. That's most of the people that come to us. They've tried something else
Right.
already. We've had people do TM and everything. And we say, the fact that that was difficult for you is not your fault. It's the
Mm,
it's the it's the method.
mhm,
And asking somebody to turn off their mind, I mean, forget about it. We say turn off nothing. Turn
mhm,
on your heart. Turn
mhm.
on your heart. Leave everything else on, but turn on your heart. And the ego is not a problem if the heart's in charge. If the mind's in charge, the ego is a big problem. But if the heart's in charge, the ego is a servant. So don't worry about the ego either. Worry about the heart.
right.
And as we talked earlier, that idea that you have it's hard to focus when you're meditating, and the mind gets, well, right. You give it an anchor, and that anchor has to be internal, not external.
Hmm.
Something inside you. So traditionally, we people give their attention to their breath. That's good, but it's not deep enough. You need to
Hmm.
focus on the heart,
Hard.
and that's the anchor. And it's home because it's the first sound you ever heard was your mother's heartbeat. So it's very familiar and it's very comforting, and it holds you. Now it's easy to meditate, and everybody tells us this. It's like, why didn't I know this ahead of time? I mean, this is so much easier because we're not working against anything. We're not working against the mind. We're not working against anything. We're trying to
Right.
use everything.
Absolutely. Yes. That's you're right. I mean, and I love that you said it's not your fault. It's the method because people always, we're always individuals who, unfortunately, the human has a tendency to blame themselves. Blame and shame is I'm sure you've come across those. Those are huge emotions that people take on all the time. And it's like, well, I can't get this and everybody else is, so it must be my fault. So absolutely. But thank you for clarifying that because I think that this method is really something that I think it's groundbreaking because I haven't heard of it, but I definitely think it's a method that everybody can step into just with some practice. There's no question. And in today's world, we have many people who are experiencing burnout, anxiety and chronic stress, as you said. So, how can these practices help with these symptoms? I mean, it's so, unfortunately, it's in our environments now. We've got so much going on in the world, as you mentioned earlier. Is there any like small tips that individuals could do just to help them through, the burnout and the stress so that they can walk into programs like your own?
Well, because we have an app and these everyday meditations, they can try that out. But when you try out meditation by yourself, what I say is add it on to a habit that you already have. A lot of people want to meditate, and the biggest excuse, especially when you have burnout, anxiety, is that they say, I don't have time. Because, when you meditate, you have to sit still and you have to focus. And burnout and anxiety keeps you from that. So it's good to not make a goal where you say, I'm going to meditate for half an hour or 20 minutes or so. Meditate for 3 minutes. Just sit down and try to feel your breath and see maybe there is a pulse there. And if you use our app, you actually get the tools that really help you just by putting your finger on the app, and you get the heartbeat. It's really a fantastic thing. I'm trying to find this part of the thing.
Well, that's
And
wonderful. Yes, thank you for reminding us of the app. Yes.
do you see? Here it is. I'm not sure if it's visible.
Unfortunately, it
You
doesn't show up on the camera. It's just
But you
white.
you see, put your hand on the back of the camera, and in the
Mhm.
front you get then the sound with it, and you can do that with it. And the other thing is what I always taught people is usually we brush our teeth in the morning. That's a habit which most of us have. Well, try
Mhm.
to meditate a few minutes before you brush your teeth and try
Mhm.
it out. I was just recently at a conference and people said, what is this iamHeart? And I said, it's a school of meditation. And they said, oh, meditation, that's the hardest thing. I said, do you have 5 minutes? I can teach you this practice in 5 minutes. And some people went for it. And in 5 minutes, if you can feel your heartbeat, breath and heart is right there. And it's easy to learn. It's easy to put together. Uh, then comes the challenge with making time for it. And, Americans are these powerful people who make what they want to happen, right? So if you really want to make time, that's an incredible power. That's a godly power to make time. If you want to feel your divinity, you say, I make time. I don't know if people hear what I'm trying to say here, but that's, you really move into being in charge on what is happening in my life. That's what making time. And if you want to make time for yourself, that's the greatest responsibility we have in life, because that is what we are accountable for at the end of when our heart is being put on the scale, speaking in the Egyptian terms.
Yes,
So
that is a powerful statement, Susanna. Making time for ourselves is the greatest responsibility we have.
that's right.
That is really powerful. That really hits home and that makes you think, wow, because we're always so preoccupied with everything else and or everyone else. The distractions, yes. But thank you. Yeah, and I love the fact that you brought in start small. Everything starts with one small step. Do
Mhm.
it with something that you do every day. The teeth brushing is perfect. I would hope that most people brush their teeth. Let's hope so. Whatever. Going to the bathroom. I mean, okay, that's a little extreme, but whatever. But start with that's always everything starts the what is it? That journey starts with one step, a journey of a million miles. I didn't get it right, but
That's right.
it
You got
always
it. You're right on
it
it. Yeah. See,
starts
I
with
have I
one
have
small
taught
step.
this, I have taught this for a long time in person individuals, and people come into the session and say, Susanna, it works. I want to brush my teeth, and I put the toothbrush down and I go and meditate. I said, way to go.
Love it.
When you want to start a new habit, you hook it to an existing habit.
That's right.
You see, and then
That's
Yeah.
I love
you,
that.
you
I
Yeah.
use the
haven't
habit
heard
you've
that.
got, but you hook it on.
Yeah.
That
You
is
want to make,
that is
see, you want to make meditation a habit. The Western culture doesn't have this meditation a habit. We teach a lot in Taiwan for all the places in the world, and we taught in Korea and I don't know where else. But we have students so when we go to Taiwan, those people, they sit quietly, they sit there like Buddhas, but they don't feel their heart. For them to feel their heart is a lot of work. They're so used to the Buddhist method, like my Buddhist monk. Do you know the monks? That's a Buddhist monk. It's very hard for Buddhists to feel their heart. So they are perfect. Americans have a very different problem than the Eastern people. Western people can't sit still. To sit for 5 minutes still, you have to pay them.
We'll pay you to meditate. That's funny.
Right,
I bet they'd
right,
show up for sure.
right.
You'd have a
In,
sold out event. Thousands would show up.
right, right,
But wouldn't that be something? Some billionaire could take that on. Okay,
right.
everybody gets paid. We're going to bring you all in here. No excuses. Put the phones away. Oh, that would be fabulous. We'll have to work on that. We'll put it out there. That would be a great movement. I love it. But yes, I agree 100%. So let's hope that people are coming more to their senses, because that's exactly what we need. We obviously we all need to live more consciously, but that's what it's really all about, is understanding who we are and why we're here. And just it's the Western way of life, go, 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 it's in other cultures too. There's a lot in Europe that are the same way. So, but it's coming. I can feel it. It's much more prevalent today. Even when I was sharing my earlier story with you that I was in the financial industry and quit, I didn't understand why at the time that I walked away from a very successful career. And it wasn't so much that I was broken. A lot of people have breakdowns, or their bodies, they get physically ill, etc. I've interviewed a lot of individuals like that, and that was the turning point. I was just like, I don't like this anymore. I don't understand. And yes, it's making me a lot of money, but I don't want to do it anymore. And boy, when Jane makes up her mind, she just like walked away. Everybody was like, okay, she's made up her mind. She's not coming
Good for
back.
you. Good
Yeah.
for you. That's a
But,
huge step.
I couldn't explain it at the time. So maybe my heart was trying to talk to me, but I just wasn't listening. It could have been the story. Yeah, absolutely. So give us a little insight to your community, because you say you have a very supportive community at iamHeart, and this is so important in today's world.
Well, it's an online community because we're all over the place. We're physically located in Tucson. We used to be in Boston,
Oh,
but through the we started on the internet early in 1998. We started teaching courses on the internet. I'm a computer scientist by trade, so I was able to get in on the technology early, and so we've been meditating online for a long time, and we've got people really in all parts of the world. Our first book was published by Random House, and it got distributed to airport airport bookstores all over the world. So we've got people in Singapore and Australia and so on. It's something that it doesn't depend on the culture, I mean, like the people in Taiwan love it, and the people in Europe love it, and so it's something which is cross cultural. It doesn't depend on any particular religion. It's a biological method.
Yeah, and
But it's also spiritual, because we have a tradition that we're following. We have a lineage. We have an ancestry that we're following, where we are the successors of our teacher. So we're, it's an authentic thing. In other words, we don't make this up. We get to use it, but we get to clarify it and polish it, but we don't make it up.
What makes the community a lot work in the school too is we have mentors. It's a little bit different than coaches. In mentoring, people meet with their mentor once a month. So it's not like a weekly and it has a rhythm to it. And people get acquainted with each other. You can change your mentor, but some people are for 20, 30 years with a mentor, and they grow together. And then mentors have groups of people, and then people do take together classes, and they get to know each other. And at a certain age in life, if you don't have children or if you don't have dogs, it's really hard to make deep friends. And parents, that's one way of having friendships. Or when you have dog people, they make certain kinds of friendships. But when you have somebody who shares their heart, In a seminar or in a retreat, those kind of heart sharings you don't find anywhere else. Do you know what I
It's
mean?
profound.
Because
Profound.
the confidentiality or the fear of sharing your heart falls away, because you realize when you share your heart, you're more like the other. Do you see, we realize how we have all the same problems. We have all the same desires of growing and becoming godlike people. That there's no limitation to our beings. And you realize that, and you see the growth in the other people. You're like, you can really say, wow, it's incredible who
Right.
that person has become. And they say this themselves. This is not we just saying this or manipulate them. No, you can really see their changes in them over the decades that they are in the organization, in the school.
Or the weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I love
It's
that. That
really,
it's a heart connection with,
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
just
yeah.
Deep.
a community. Yeah, it's deep, and I love that there's that mentorship you said, and then they take things together, so there's a true connection, which is really really special and
And
unique
some of them,
to.
they go on vacations together, or they
Oh,
they visit each other in different countries, and they get, it's
beautiful.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
true
not
friends.
dependent just on the organization. They
Right.
just go and travel and do stuff. It's really very interesting. Or they write to each other. It's not controlled. Do you see what I mean?
Hmm.
It's
You see, because we're a school, we really depend on the development of other people. We want to develop teachers. We develop mentors. We develop retreat guides. It's not just about us. We're just some of the teachers, but there are many other teachers. And so we're,
Right. So you're a community. Yes, I get it. Absolutely. Well, we'll get this wrapped up soon. I just wanted to ask you, what's the first step that, say, someone was coming to you and they were feeling a tug towards your work? What would you say?
are you willing to change?
that's right.
We say we don't require you to believe anything. We don't have any required beliefs except you have to be willing to change.
Right.
And most of the
That's
people say, of course, of course. But when they come then to that point, they're like, oh God, how do I get through that step? Do you know, Jane? Because we are very real about this. Uh, there is the courses that we have, and most of the people, there's graduations from these courses. Do they do the work and so on? But we are not like a school. We don't grade them, or we want people to learn as much as they can. So there's no grading about it. But we're very clear when people are for a long time in the school to help them to go through the 9 steps of realization. And the way we do this, they have a mentor, and the mentor sort of is with them, over time. And then we say, oh, we could graduate that person from the school. And so what they have to do for that, they have to write a paper. And the paper is anywhere from 10 to 50 pages. Some people write a book. They hand us over a book about what their experience was in the school. And it's not that they leave the school then, but then they become really, very active teachers in the school, or mentors, or that
right.
kind of thing. So this is with these 9, because they realized who they have become. But this
Hmm.
kind of change that Puran talks about, are you can you commit yourself that you're willing to change? You feel this with the people in the 9 steps, because some of the steps are very hard for some people to change, to go through that change. And that's where the practices come in, the retreats come in,
You have
and
to
the
do it
mentor
together.
is there.
You
Yeah,
can't do it alone. You do it
yeah.
together.
The
Right.
programs.
And because you do it together is possible. But this is a school of
Yes.
illumination. And,
Hmm.
and, and so we have a high ideal, but we,
Yeah.
we get there.
Yeah. You're creating a legacy for sure, that it continues on. This is what I see it.
Jane, mm.
I think
Jane,
so.
you're incredible. We have never shared in any podcast to that depth what we do.
Oh, really? Well,
You're
You
really
brought it out of
incredible.
us. Thank you very
well,
much for that.
thank you
Yeah.
so much. I mean, I get that often. This why this is my calling. I mean, I often have that from individuals. They'll say, "I've never." That's been a great interview. I was able to share a lot of information, but I am pleased and happy to have you on anytime. So whenever something comes up or you want to share something earth shattering, please do not hesitate. So I wanted to ask you, and we'll have this all on the Epic Vision Zone. And thank you so much, by the way. Very grateful for that compliment. And likewise, your information and knowledge is just so valuable. Where can people get a hold of you? And we'll have all this information on our pages as well. So just give our audience an idea.
iamHeart.org
Okay.
/gift will take you to a place where we have a lot of free things.
The app is
Wonderful.
there and the free classes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so everything
I
for them, including the app, right?
Including
I
the
am
app. Yeah, there is.
okay. Terrific. Well, we'll have that information on the bio pages. And I have one last question while we're here for you. Maybe you would answer individually. If your life were an epic story, which I believe it is, what would the title be?
Oh,
Computer scientist finds his heart.
Mm,
that's
okay,
true.
that's
That's
very
true.
good. How about you,
Or
Susanna?
computer scientist finds his soulmate.
That's the novel that's coming out.
Mm. I don't know. My mother has this year. We actually gonna go to Austria in 2 weeks. My mother has this year her 100th birthday, and
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
and um, I, I probably would not call it as an epic story, but it's to my mother's heart. It's very hard to understand because I think I left home because of my mother. I needed to find myself and find this work, and there was a breakup between my mother and I, and she has forgiven me a long time, and I have forgiven her, and there's just a family drama there. And
Yeah.
I have helped the family a lot through this, through the work. This work has helped the whole clan of our family. And this is just what comes from my heart when you ask me this. So it's
Finding your way home.
finding my way home. Yeah, that would be,
That's beautiful.
or healing the clan. Do you know what I mean? That
Yes,
is something too,
absolutely.
because it's a much bigger thing than just a family, that, and there will be a
It's
family gathering again. And
right.
yeah.
Oh, how beautiful. Wonderful. And that's
Mhm,
perfect, actually.
mhm,
Very, very, and very,
mhm.
it falls right in place for this is what you were meant to do, you know,
Yeah,
to bring that full
yeah,
circle. Absolutely. Well,
that's right.
thank you again. Yes, absolutely. So thank you again very much, Susanna and Puran, for joining us here today.
Thank
And
you.
once again, go to the information bio pages at the Epic Vision Zone, where you will find all of their social media and contact information. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath. Look me up at janeapplegath.com and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Epic Vision Zone. Sending you much love and gratitude. This is the Epic Vision Zone, the ultimate source for extraordinary transformations.